Stop lying to yourself. You are not waiting for the right time. You are not waiting to be more prepared. You are not waiting for a sign. You are afraid. And that fear is destroying your life one day at a time. Every morning, you wake up and choose fear over your dreams. Every night, you go to sleep knowing you let another day pass without taking action. You tell yourself tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow never comes because fear is making your decisions. Here is the brutal truth. You will die with your dreams still inside you if you do not learn to act despite fear. Your potential will rot. Your possibilities will vanish. Not because you lack talent or opportunity, but because you were too afraid to try. But today, that ends. Today, you learn that fear is a liar. Today, you discover the exact methods to break fear's control and finally become the person you know you are capable of being. Not someday, not eventually, today. So listen carefully. Your future self is begging you to pay attention right now. This is Slow English, your podcast for learning English, building skills, and transforming your life. You do not need to speak or repeat. Simply listen and absorb these powerful ideas about overcoming fear and taking action. Today's topic is fear and action. This is not about becoming fearless. Fearless people do not exist. Everyone feels fear. This is about learning to act despite fear, to move forward when everything inside you wants to retreat, to choose growth over comfort. Fear affects everyone. You feel it when you consider making a change. You feel it when you think about pursuing a dream. You feel it when you face uncertainty or the possibility of failure. Fear is universal. But what separates people who create extraordinary lives from those who stay stuck is simple. They act despite the fear. Fear affects every area of your life. It affects your career. You stay in a job you hate because you fear the unknown. You do not apply for the promotion because you fear rejection. You do not start your business because you fear failure. Each time you let fear make the decision, you shrink your life. Fear affects your relationships. You do not express your true feelings because you fear vulnerability. You stay in unhealthy relationships because you fear being alone. You do not set boundaries because you fear conflict. Fear keeps you disconnected from authentic relationships. Fear affects your personal growth. You do not try new things because you fear looking foolish. You do not take risks because you fear making mistakes. You play it safe, and slowly your life becomes smaller and smaller. Your comfort zone becomes a prison. But it does not have to be this way. You can learn to recognize fear, understand it, and act despite it. This is the skill that changes everything. Fear is a survival mechanism. Your brain is designed to keep you alive, not to keep you happy or fulfilled. When your ancestors faced a predator, fear saved their lives. It triggered the fight or flight response. Adrenaline flooded their bodies. They ran or fought. This kept them alive. The problem is that your brain cannot tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. It reacts to public speaking the same way it reacts to a dangerous animal. It reacts to starting a business the same way it reacts to physical danger. Your body prepares to fight or run, even when the situation requires neither. This is why fear feels so physical. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your stomach tightens, your breathing becomes shallow. These are not just feelings. These are your body's preparation for immediate action against danger. But in modern life, most fears are not physical threats. They are psychological. There are two types of fear: real fear protects you from genuine danger. If you are standing at the edge of a cliff, fear keeps you from falling. This fear is useful. Listen to it. The second type is imagine fear. This is fear of things that might happen but probably will not. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty. This fear does not protect you. It limits you. It keeps you from opportunities, growth, and the life you want. Most of your fears fall into the second category. You are not in physical danger when you give a presentation, or ask someone on a date, or quit your job to pursue your passion. But your body reacts as if you are. Understanding this is the first step to overcoming fear. The first step to overcoming fear is recognizing how fear operates in your life. Fear has patterns. It shows up in predictable ways. It uses familiar excuses. When you recognize these patterns, you stop being controlled by them. Notice what triggers your fear. What situations make you want to avoid, procrastinate, or retreat? Maybe it is speaking up in meetings. Maybe it is networking events. Maybe it is anything where you might fail or be judged. Write down your fear triggers. Awareness is power. Notice how fear talks to you. Fear has a voice. It says things like, "You are not ready yet. What if you fail? People will think you are stupid. It is too risky. Maybe later." These thoughts feel like wisdom, like your brain protecting you. But they are fear, protecting itself. Fear wants to stay in control. Notice how fear feels in your body. Where do you feel fear? Chest, stomach, throat? When you recognize the physical sensation of fear, you can identify it faster. Instead of believing the fearful thoughts, you can say, "This is fear. This is my body preparing for action." This creates distance between you and the fear. Notice what you do when you feel fear. Do you procrastinate? Make excuses? Get busy with unimportant tasks? Seek reassurance from others? These are fear strategies. They temporarily relieve anxiety, but they keep you stuck. Recognizing your fear behaviors is essential to changing them. Most fears crumble when you examine them closely, but most people never question their fears. They accept them as truth. They believe the worst-case scenario will definitely happen. They overestimate the danger and underestimate their ability to handle it. Ask yourself, what specifically am I afraid of? Not vague fear, but specific fear. Instead of "I am afraid of starting a business," identify the specific fear. I am afraid I will lose money. I am afraid I will look foolish if I fail. I am afraid I am not smart enough. Specific fears are easier to address than vague anxiety. Ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could realistically happen? Not your catastrophic imagination, but realistic worst case. If you start the business and it fails, you lose time and money. That is difficult but not devastating. You will not die. You will not be permanently ruined. You will learn valuable lessons and try again. Ask yourself, what is the best thing that could happen? Fear makes you focus only on negative possibilities, but positive outcomes are equally possible, often more likely. What if you succeed? What if it is easier than you think? What if you discover abilities you did not know you had? Ask yourself, what is the cost of not acting? This is the question most people never ask. They focus on the risk of action, but ignore the risk of inaction. What does it cost you to stay in the job you hate, to never pursue your dream, to let fear make your decisions? The cost of inaction is often much higher than the cost of action. Ask yourself, can I handle the consequences if things go wrong? Almost always, the answer is yes. Humans are remarkably resilient. You have survived every difficult thing that has happened to you so far. You have more strength and resources than you realize. Even if the worst happens, you will find a way through it. The biggest mistake people make with fear is trying to overcome it all at once. They try to make huge leaps. This triggers massive fear, which leads to paralysis. Instead, start with small actions that stretch you slightly beyond your comfort zone. If you fear public speaking, do not start by giving a speech to 1,000 people. Start by speaking up once in a small meeting. Then volunteer to give a short presentation to your team. Build gradually. Each small success builds confidence and reduces fear. If you fear rejection, do not start by asking for something huge. Practice small requests. Ask for a small discount. Ask someone for a recommendation. Ask a stranger for directions. These low-stakes situations expose you to the possibility of rejection without major consequences. You learn that rejection is not devastating. Small actions create momentum. Each time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that you can do it. You gather evidence that fear lies. You build what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to succeed. This belief is built through action, not thinking. Small actions also help you learn. When you take small steps, you get feedback quickly. You discover what works and what does not. You adjust your approach. You improve. This is much more effective than planning endlessly without action. The key is consistency. Take one small action every day that scares you slightly. Over time, these small actions compound. Your comfort zone expands. Things that terrified you become normal. You become someone who acts despite fear. Your body's response to fear and excitement is nearly identical. Racing heart, quick breathing, heightened alertness, butterflies in your stomach. The physical sensations are the same. The difference is your interpretation. When you tell yourself, "I am afraid," your brain interprets the physical sensations as threat. This triggers more fear. You become more anxious. Performance decreases. You want to escape. When you tell yourself, "I am excited," your brain interprets the same sensations as positive anticipation. This triggers motivation. You become more focused. Performance improves. You move toward the challenge. This is not just positive thinking. This is a proven psychological technique called anxiety reappraisal. Research shows that people who reframe anxiety as excitement perform better on stressful tasks than people who try to calm down. Before a challenging situation, do not tell yourself to calm down. Tell yourself you're excited. You go say it out loud. I am excited about this presentation. I am excited about this conversation. I am excited about this opportunity. Your brain will start to believe it. The physical sensations remain, but they fuel you instead of stopping you. This reframe changes everything. Instead of seeing fear as a sign something is wrong, you see it as a sign you are about to do something meaningful. Fear becomes information that you're stretching, growing, moving towards something important. Outcome-focused thinking increases fear. When you focus only on results, you make success all or nothing. You either succeed completely or fail completely. This makes the stakes feel enormous. Fear increases. Process-focused thinking reduces fear. When you focus on the process, you measure success differently. Did you take action? Did you try your best? Did you learn something? These are things you control. You can succeed at the process even if the outcome is not what you wanted. For example, if you fear rejection when asking someone on a date, focusing on the outcome creates massive pressure. Either they say yes and you succeed, or they say no and you fail. This makes asking terrifying. But if you focus on the process, success is different. Success is building the courage to ask. Success is expressing yourself honestly. Success is handling whatever response you get with dignity. These things are in your control. Whether they say yes or no becomes less important. This approach applies to everything: starting a business, learning a new skill, having a difficult conversation. When you focus on doing your best in the moment rather than controlling the outcome, fear loses its power. You take action because the action itself is the success. Fear often points toward what matters most to you. The things you are most afraid of are often the things you care about deeply. If you did not care, you would not be afraid. You fear starting a business because you deeply want to create something meaningful. You fear vulnerability in relationships because you deeply want real connection. You fear failure because you deeply want to succeed at something important. When you feel fear, get curious about it. What is this fear protecting? What does it reveal about what matters to you? Fear is often a sign that you are close to something significant. Use fear as a compass. When you feel afraid of something, move toward it instead of away from it. Not recklessly, but deliberately. Fear shows you where growth lives. It shows you the edges of your comfort zone. It shows you where the life you want is waiting. The things you fear most are often the things you need to do most. That difficult conversation you keep avoiding, it is probably necessary for the relationship to improve. That risk you are afraid to take, it is probably required for the opportunity you want. Fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a road sign pointing toward growth. Courage is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Each time you act despite fear, you build courage. Each time you let fear stop you, courage weakens. This means you should actively seek opportunities to practice courage. Do not wait until you must be brave. Practice being brave in small ways every day. This builds capacity for when big courage is required. Say what you really think in a conversation instead of saying what you think people want to hear. Ask for what you need instead of hoping people will guess. Try something new where you might fail. Make a phone call you have been avoiding. These small acts of courage train you for bigger acts. Celebrate your courage. When you do something brave, acknowledge it. Do not diminish it by saying it was not a big deal. It was a big deal. You felt fear and acted anyway. This is the definition of courage. Acknowledging your courage reinforces the behavior. You become more likely to act courageously again. Remember that courage is not about never feeling fear. Courage is about acting despite fear. The most courageous people feel fear intensely. They simply do not let it make their decisions. They feel the fear, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. Perfectionism is fear in disguise. When you wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, you are letting fear control you. There is no perfect time. There is only now. Action creates clarity. You cannot think your way to courage. You cannot plan your way past fear. You must act. Action provides information. Action builds confidence. Action creates momentum. Even imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. This is especially true when starting something new. You do not need to know everything before you start. You do not need to have it all figured out. You need to take the first step. Then the next step becomes clear. Then the next. The path appears as you walk it. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Mistakes are not failure. Mistakes are learning. Every expert was once a beginner who kept going despite mistakes. The fastest way to overcome fear is to do the thing you fear, not someday, not when you are ready. Now, take imperfect action now. Learn from it. Adjust. Take more action. This is how you build the life you want. Fear is easier to overcome when you're not alone. When you commit to someone else, you're more likely to follow through. This is the power of accountability. Tell someone about your goal or fear. Ask them to check in with you. Knowing someone will ask about your progress makes you more likely to take action. You do not want to report that fear won. You want to report that you moved forward. Join a group of people working on similar goals. Seeing others face their fears gives you courage. Sharing your struggles helps you realize you are not alone. Everyone feels fear. Everyone struggles. But together, you can support each other through it. Hire a coach or mentor if you can. Someone who has overcome the fears you face can guide you through the process. They can point out fear-based thinking you do not recognize. They can encourage you when you want to quit. They can celebrate your progress. Share your actions publicly if that motivates you. Post about what you are doing on social media. Write about it. Talk about it. Public commitment increases follow-through. You are less likely to back down when others are watching. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you reinforce fear. You teach yourself that discomfort is dangerous. You shrink your life. Growth lives outside your comfort zone. Everything you want that you do not have requires you to do things you have not done before. New things are uncomfortable. Unfamiliar things trigger fear. This is normal. This is not a sign to stop. This is a sign you're growing. Learn to tolerate discomfort. Sit with the uncomfortable feelings instead of immediately trying to make them go away. Notice that discomfort is not dangerous. It is just uncomfortable. There is a difference. When you feel uncomfortable, remind yourself this is growth. This is your brain and body adapting to new territory. This discomfort is temporary. On the other side of discomfort is the expanded life you want. The more you practice sitting with discomfort, the less power it has over you. You realize you can handle much more than you thought. You become someone who does hard things. This transforms your entire life. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is not a sign you are on the wrong path. Fear is simply your brain trying to protect you from perceived danger. But most of the time, the danger is not real. It is imagined. The life you want is on the other side of fear. The relationship you want requires vulnerability, which is scary. The career you want requires risk, which is scary. The growth you want requires change, which is scary. You cannot avoid fear and create an extraordinary life. They do not go together. But you can change your relationship with fear. You can recognize it, question it, act despite it. You can start small and build momentum. You can reframe fear as excitement. You can focus on process instead of outcome. You can use fear as a compass, pointing toward what matters most. Every person you admire has felt the same fears you feel. The difference is they acted anyway. They took one small step, then another, then another. They built courage through action. They proved to themselves that they could handle more than they thought. You can do this, too. Start today. Choose one thing you have been avoiding because of fear. Take one small action toward it. Just one. See what happens. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. Over time, these small acts of courage compound. You become someone who acts despite fear. You become someone who creates the life you want instead of settling for the life fear allows. This is how you transform from someone controlled by fear into someone who uses fear as fuel for growth. Thank you for listening to this slow English podcast episode on overcoming fear and taking action. If this message has resonated with you, return to it whenever you need courage to face your fears. In the comments below, share one fear you are ready to face. What have you been avoiding because of fear? What action will you take this week despite feeling afraid? Share your commitment and inspire others who are building courage. Subscribe to this podcast for new episodes every week. Each episode brings you English learning, combined with practical skills for creating a life of courage, growth, and authentic success. New episodes every Monday. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking action while fear is present. Feel the fear. Acknowledge it. Thank it for trying to protect you. Then act anyway. This is how you build the extraordinary life that is waiting for you on the other side of fear.